Alright, we are here in beautiful sunny Florida, and today, fight fans, I'm going to be bringing you the third episode of the Hardcore's Delight for the month of March 2017. And, there is a lot of good fights going outside of the UFC for this month. Lots and lots of fun stuff. Of course, by the title, you can see that the card I will be featuring in this episode is WSOF 35, Ivanov versus Jordan. Pretty damn good WSOF card considering the amount of, big names they lost. They still managed to put together a very solid card here. So, usual format here, man. I'm going to be featuring and breaking down one card outside of the UFC. Then after that, I'm going to be briefly going over all the notable events and notable fights outside the UFC for the month of March, and then I will be ending with the new signings of the UFC and try to give you, just a little information about the guys they may have just signed, and there is a couple of signings I am excited to talk about here. So this episode of the Hardcore's Delight is brought to you by the MMATakeover.com. Very cool guys over there, man. Been a pleasure to talk to. Very awesome guys. Awesome website, man. I'm expecting these guys to blow up in 17, so go ahead and check them out over at the MMATakeover.com and follow them on Twitter. Like I said, just good dudes, good info on MMA, and lots of other good, awesome MMA content providers are featured on that website. So highly recommend going to check out the MMATakeover.com. But let's get into this, man. So WSOF 35, Ivanov versus Jordan and Verona, New York. Um, Man, so this card, I'm just gonna start briefly grazing over the prelims because there's some notable ass shit in the prelims here, and I like it a lot. You got Phil Haas, who was a highly touted prospect at one point. He was in that season of The Ultimate Fighter that Andrew Sanchez won. Ultimately, he lost to Andrew Sanchez in the fight to get into the house. He made his WSOF debut. He smashed the guy, but that guy was a complete can. Then he goes out there and fights Luis Taylor in his last fight, and he gets guillotined. But he's got a 2-0 guy here, so I expect Phil Haas to get another impressive victory there. Alexandre De Almeida is in the prelims fighting a guy named Steven Rodriguez. De Almeida, of course, is the guy that fought Lance Palmer twice. He won the first one, both very two close fights. So former WSOF champ there in the prelims. I expect him to roll right through Steven Rodriguez. A prelim fight that I'm not going to talk about right now. I'm going to actually break that fight down because it's a good fight. Anything else here in the prelims? Islam Mamadev. He's 13-1, 155-pound prospect. He's in the prelims fighting a guy named Natan Schult. I expect him to get the W there, and Andrews Nakahara, who was on the Black Zillions versus ATT season. Pretty damn good striker, but just missing the ground game. He's fighting Manny Wallow, who has a victory over Ben Fodor, the superhero guy. I expect Manny Wallow to probably run through Andrews Nakahara there. I'm not really high in Nakahara there at all. So, getting into it, man, the prelim fight that I do want to discuss a little bit, and I don't have notes for these. It's been a busy as shit week for me, so just very limited information here, but enough to keep you entertained for sure. I was expecting to get this out yesterday and my UFC Fortaleza breakdown up today. Now I'm going to have this up today and my Fortaleza breakdown up tomorrow, so look out for that tomorrow. But getting into it, man, you got Steven Seiler, UFC veteran, 29-15, taking on Hakeem Dawodu, 6-0 in the featherweight division. So Steven Seiler, former UFC fighter, lost to pretty much every good guy he fought. Did pick up a couple wins. He's been on. He went on a hell of a streak outside the UFC. I believe like a 7 or 6 fight win streak, but not against the greatest names. And then you got this dude Hakeem Dawodu who fights out of Canada. He's 6-0. Very good Muay Thai striker, but there is much to be desired when it comes to the grappling. Um, I forget who the dude he fought was. That took him down a couple times, but then he just. I think it was a guy named Chuka Willis. Yeah, it was the Chuka Willis fight. Chuka just took him down and kind of held him down in that first round, but he kept his composure and he knocked him out in the second round. And Steven Siler is a guy that's been knocked out, so it would not shock me at all here if Hakeem Dawodu, the prospect, the 6-0 prospect, went and knocked him out. But I expect Steven Siler with the big experience edge, the UFC high level experience, and the much superior ground skills. I think he's going to be able to ride Hakeem Dawodu out here to a 30-27 decision, but I wouldn't be shocked here if Dawodu went and knocked Siler out. But moving on to the main card here, first fight on the main card, we got Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov. I believe he's Habib's brother or cousin. He's taking on Matt Sakor, 8-3 at a welterweight bout. Nurmagomedov, he's basically a poor man's Khabib, man. He's good. He's definitely every single one of his bouts he's like a minus 500, minus 400 just because he's like fighting these cans. And Matt Sakor, he's pretty much just a jiu-jitsu guy, man. And I think Nurmagomedov is just gonna steamroll him here. Like him a lot. The odds are probably going to be crazy on him, so I doubt a bet is going to be in place for me there. And then the first of three title fights here, man. We got the new 135-pound champion now that Marlon Moraes has left. You got Bekbulat Magomedov, 17-1, taking on Donovan Freelo, 5-1. It was supposed to be Magomedov versus Timur Valiev, but Valiev got injured, and I was decently high on Valiev there to pretty much beat the hell out of Magomedov. But Donovan Freelo, he's good. He's pretty well rounded. I'd say his grappling is the best aspect of his game, but he lacks the experience here. He's only 5-1. He hasn't really put things all together. Magomedov, he's one of those Dagestani guys. Awesome wrestler, and his striking's not too shabby either. You don't just put together a 17-1 record, and he has some decent guys he's beat on his record. And Donovan Freelo coming in here on like a week's notice. I expect Magomedov to pretty much just steamroll him here, maybe 50-45 decision. So I like Magomedov to go out there and decision Freelo and capture that bantamweight title. But moving on to easily the best fight of the card and easily one of the best fights you can make outside of the UFC, man. We got the 145-pound champion Lance Palmer, 11-2, taking on Andre Harrison, 15-0. I'm psyched for this one, man. I mean, neither of these guys are the most exciting. They're both wrestlers. They grind out their opponents, but man, this is a closely contested fight here, man. It's close on paper, I should say. I mean, Andre Harrison is no slouch. I mean, you don't just put together a 15-0 record. He comes out of Belmore, I want to say, and Lance Palmer, of course, Team Alpha Male. It's tough, man. West Coast versus East Coast. This is just all kinds of fun. Andre Harrison, this is kind of a hometown fight for him here in New York. Lance Palmer's traveling across the country. And Andre Harrison he hasn't really shown any kind of vulnerability. A guy that's going to beat Andre Harrison is a guy that can stuff the takedowns and outstrike him. And maybe Lance Palmer can stuff the takedowns just based on his wrestling, but I mean, I don't see him having a huge advantage on the feet or anything. So, and then again, I don't even see him stuffing the takedowns. I think Andre Harrison's going to go out there and out wrestle Lance Palmer, which is no easy task. But that's just how highly I think of Andre Harrison. I do like him a decent bit here. It wouldn't shock me in the world. Andre Harrison is no lock, but I like it a lot, man. This fight's just all kinds of fun. I'm interested to see what the odds will be. If I could get Andre Harrison at plus money, that would be some nice stuff right there. Um, man, I would think I would give Lance Palmer maybe the jiu-jitsu advantage, but if Andre Harrison's going to be taking him down, getting the dominant positions, I'm not sure that'll matter so much. Like I said, not too much research. Didn't do as much research as I wanted to do, but just based off what I did do, I do like Andre Harrison here to outpoint Lance Palmer over the course of 5 rounds in an exciting matchup. I mean, I know it's two wrestlers, but I'm expecting some fun shit here. But speaking of fun shit, let's move into this main event. We got the champion Blagoy Ivanov, 14-1, defending his heavyweight belt against UFC veteran, former LSU player. You got Sean Jordan, 19-7. Man, I'm really high on Sean Jordan. I've loved Sean Jordan throughout his whole career. I mean, he's just this huge dude with fucking unreal athleticism. I mean, you see the backflips he does after he gets those knockouts. You see that hook kick knockout against Derek the Black Beast Lewis, who's just on a roll of himself. I mean, Blagoy Ivanov, he's a solid heavyweight. He's no shit heavyweight by any means. I mean, he's the champ. He's 14-1 for a reason. And on Tapology here, man, you got 68% of people picking Blagoy Ivanov, and I gotta disagree, man. I think Sean Jordan's gonna go out there and knock his ass out. I mean, I think he's just a much more athletic guy. He'll be quicker on the feet. He's got more diverse striking. Blagoy Ivanov just kind of throws these winging bombs. Um, that last fight Blagoy had against Josh Copeland, who is not a great heavyweight at all. He did go out there and win that fight to his credit over the course of 5 rounds, but it was just a slop fest, man. And Sean Jordan isn't going to go out there and have a slop fest with Blagoy Ivanov. He's going to go out there and land some accurate, powerful strikes on him. And I mean, obviously we saw Sean Jordan. His last loss was against Ruslan Magomedov, who basically just wrestled him. And Blagoy Ivanov, he's got a wrestling base, and I would not be shocked in the slightest if he put that to use there. But wrestling Sean Jordan over the course of 5 rounds, I mean, that is a tough task. Sean Jordan, for the size he is, he's got a decent gas tank. I have a hard time seeing Blagoy Ivanov knocking Sean Jordan out. Maybe he knocks Sean Jordan out. This is heavyweight, but I see it as unlikely, and I doubt he can out wrestle him over the course of 5 rounds. I think over the course of 5 rounds, Sean Jordan is going to find that chin, and for that reason, I am going to go with the better striker, better athlete, quicker athlete. Going with Sean Jordan via a second round KO to capture that WSOF heavyweight championship of the world. So that is WSOF 35. Fun card there. Let's get into some of these lower level events here, notable fights here in the month of March. So LFA 6 on Friday, March 10th, 2 days from now. That takes place in San Antonio. Not a whole lot in this card to go over. Mackenzie Dern is on the card. She is fighting Catherine Roy, who I know nothing about. I expect Mackenzie Dern to go in there and submit her with some crazy shit. Co-main event, you got Eric Anders, who is a former Alabama linebacker. They won the championship the year he was when he was a linebacker in Alabama. They won the championship. So he's got a college football ring. And he's just an excellent athlete, and he's shown that athleticism in MMA. He's kicked some ass, man. He's coming off like a 15-second knockout in his Bellator debut, and he's fighting this dude named John Kirk, 19-13. I expect Eric Anders to just roll there. And then the main event, you got two guys I've never heard of, but they look to be decent. You got Rivaldo Jr., 15-6, taking on Ray Rodriguez, 11-4, a featherweight bout. Based off the little research I did, I am going to go with Ray Rodriguez via a decision. And moving on here to just an amazing card. You got ACB 54, and I gotta say, ACB has put together a fucking hell of a roster, man. They have picked up so many good fighters in these past couple months, and got a hell of a card here, man. A 20 fight card, and a lot of it is really good stuff. So going over the notable stuff here for this card. Um, you got Nam Fan, who former UFC fighter, taking on another former UFC fighter in Robert Whiteford, the Scotsman, who I don't think should have been cut. Very exciting guy, decent guy. I would just go with Robert Whiteford there. I don't think highly of Nam Fan, especially these days. Next, you got Bubba Jenkins making his ACB debut. Former Bellator fighter, NCAA Division I champion. Very, very good wrestler. Fortunately, coming off that tough loss to Georgi Karakanyan, where he got knocked down like 45 seconds. He's taking on Ali Bagov, 22-10, who also is a Russian. He's a Russian wrestler. So you got wrestler versus wrestler here. But Man, Bubba Jenkins just, I think he's on a whole different level. I mean, this guy does have 10 losses, and I expect him to get his 11th here over against a wrestler as high level as Bubba Jenkins. I think he's going to go out there and surprise Bagov. Max Nunes, who's a very good European fighter, is fighting on this card. Mike Wilkinson, former UFC fighter, is fighting here. Good fight here between Saul Rogers and Pat Healy, man. That is a good fight. Saul Rogers is a guy I'm super high on. He should have went out there and won that season of the Ultimate Fighter with Faber versus McGregor season. But of course, he did lie on his visa, which pretty much just blacklisted him from the UFC. And he's been out there killing the European game ever since. And I'm super high on the guy still. And I expect Saul Rogers to go out there and beat Pat Healy and get the biggest feather on his cap yet. Vinny Magalhaes is fighting on the card, who retired like 2 months ago, but I guess he's coming back. Fighting a Polish guy, can't pronounce that guy's name for shit, so I'm not even gonna attempt it. He's 20-19. I think Vinny with his just beastly BJJ, he's gonna go out there and submit this guy. And then in the main event, you got Luke Barnett, former UFC fighter, taking on Mamed Khalidov, who is just one of the best middleweights outside the UFC for years now. 32-4, just no bullshit record right there. Good guy. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Khalidov. I think he's gonna go out there and starch Barnett. To be honest, Barnett with that tall man defense and Khalidov with that super crisp boxing. I do like the Polish fighter there. And moving on here to one championship. This will take place Saturday, the 11th. Not much to go over for this card. If you're up at that time of day, 7:30 a.m. on Saturday, and you really got nothing to do, I would suggest tuning into this card because it is in Thailand. And looking at the undercard, it's full of these Thai kickboxers making their MMA debut, and for sure you're gonna see some fucking elite Muay Thai action here. I mean, it's not the best MMA elite action, but you're gonna see some just great Muay Thai there. So I would suggest tuning into this card. But the only really noteworthy fight here is Angela Lee defending her atomweight title against Jenny Huang. Lee 6-0, Huang 5-0. Huang has put together a nice little win streak here in ONE FC, and I look for her to be a tough test against Angela Lee. But I do ultimately favor the champion there. And moving on, I'm briefly going to go over Invicta FC 22, which take place March 25th. The reason I'm briefly going over it is because there is no UFC that weekend. So I am going to be doing a separate breakdown for this card, and there's also no UFC on the weekend of the 31st. So I'm also going to be doing a separate breakdown for that Rampage versus King Mo card. So Invicta FC 22 Saturday, March 25th, Kansas City, Missouri. Some good stuff here, man. Some couple prospects here. Amber Brown is on the card, who's a very good fighter. Jin Yu Frey is fighting on this card against Brazilian prospect Janessa Morandin, who's 9-0. That should be a very fun atomweight bout. Jody Escobar is fighting Deanna Bennett at a strawweight bout. That's a decent fight right there. Some good action. Ayaka Hamasaki, who is the Invicta Atomweight champion, is moving up to 115 pounds. And she's fighting the former 115-pound champion, Livia Hanata Souza, which should just be some great stuff there. That's a very good fight. Easily could be a UFC fight right there. And then, of course, in the main event, you do have the rematch of Tanya Evinger and Yana Kunitskaya. And if you're not familiar, they fought a few months back. Yana Kunitskaya locked up a armbar from the bottom. Tanya had her foot on the face of Kunitskaya, and the referee got Tanya to get her foot off of Kunitskaya's face, which is perfectly legal, and that did end up costing Tanya the fight. She did tap out there, but the athletic commission did turn that over due to the referee's mistake. So we got the rematch here, and it's a good fight. It's much more anticipated now that that first fight happened. Really don't know how this is going to go. I do think I favor Tanya Evinger to get a submission somewhere in the middle of the fight, maybe third or fourth round. But Yana Kunitskaya showed that she's not just some Russian can. She is a very skilled fighter. So good stuff there in Invicta this month. Two more to go over here. We do have EFN 62 here, March 31st. We got the co-main event, which is just a fucking great fight here. We got former UFC fighter Levon Makashvili, 13-2, taking on Jack McGann, 11-3, and Levon Makashvili went out there and beat man, I can't forget what's the dude's name. This is just gonna drive me nuts. The dude who just got shot up, actually, the Russian fighter who has like a really bad background, Rasul Mirzaev, who did get charged for manslaughter a few years back. I guess got those charges dropped, got back into MMA, put together a 17-0 record. He's a no bullshit fighter, very good. And then he goes out there and fights Levon Makashvili, and Makashvili ended his win streak of 17 there to put him at 17-1. So Makashvili going out there and killing it in the Russian scene ever since getting dropped by the UFC, and he's fighting another really good fighter here in Jack McGann, British fighter who's got decent wins on his record, but I do ultimately favor Levon Makashvili there, but very good fight, just much worth watching. And then the main event here, I'm super excited about this. Sergey Pavlovich, who's one of the best heavyweights outside of the UFC, 10-0. He's taken on Kirill Sidelnikov. I'm butchering that, but it is what it is. Who is also known as Baby Fedor. He's 11-4, who has put together a nice little decent win streak going back and forth between Ryzen and EFN. But man, I think Sergey Pavlovich is going to go out there and just dust this fool, man. Sergey Pavlovich is no slouch. I expect him to knock Kirill out here and hopefully get that call to the UFC, but we'll see. Definitely worth tuning into that EFN card there. And then lastly, we got Bellator 175 Rampage versus King Mo 2, March 31st in Rosemont, Illinois. Just just three fights on the card right now. You got Emmanuel Sanchez taking on Marcus Galvo, who is making his 145-pound debut. Got Sergey Karatanov, who's coming back pretty quick after that devastating knockout by Javi Ayala. He's taking on Chase Gormley. Sergey Karatanov is going to go out there and knock the shit out of Chase Gormley. And then in the main event, you got King Mo and Rampage Jackson in their rematch, and man, the first fight sucked, and I'm not expecting much difference here, except the only difference here, I think King Mo is going to make this a little bit more clear that this is his fight. He's going to go out there, he's going to take down Rampage Jackson, and go to a unanimous decision victory. But thing is here, man, King Mo just got knocked out dead by Mirko Krokop. I don't know if he's coming back too soon. The last thing to go in fighters is power, and we all know about Quentin Jackson's power. It's just going to take one here. So although I do expect Muhammad Lawal to get that unanimous decision victory, it would not surprise me in the slightest if Rampage went out there and knocked him dead. But that's it for these low-level regional events here in the month of March. A couple signings in the UFC I did want to discuss. UFC did just pick up Cindy Dandois, who is a European 135-pound fighter. She also fights at 145 pounds. Now, Cindy Dandois is the only fighter to hold a victory over Megan Anderson. She went out there and subbed Megan Anderson. Super impressive stuff. Obviously, now I think that would be a little bit different of a fight. Megan has definitely sharpened up her tools since then, but a win over Megan Anderson is that's a hell of a feather in the cap of Cindy Dandois. She's a very good grappler. If you're not familiar with Cindy or you don't watch Invicta FC, I would highly recommend going to check out Cindy Dandois versus Jessamine Duke. Just a beautiful submission there by Cindy Dandois. Awesome stuff. She's a hell of a grappler, and she is making her debut against another hell of a grappler. She's fighting Alexis Davis on April 22nd on the Swanson versus Lobov Fight Night card. And man, I'm having a tough time picking who I think is going to win that fight. It's hard to pick these debuting female fighters, but I think I do slightly favor Cindy Duenna over Alexis Davis there. Alexis Davis came out against Sarah McMahon for the first time in like a year and a half after giving birth to her baby, and she did not look good at all. I don't know where her head's at. And Cindy Duenna is a woman on the rise. Alexis Davis appears to be a woman on the decline. So I would slightly favor Duenna there. Another signing I'm pretty pumped about is Desmond Green, who is a he's been one of the staples of the regional scene for a few years now. He is the former Titan featherweight champion. He's moved up to 155 pounds since then. Had a very gritty win last time out against Marvin Brown. Very good fight there. Where scary moment where Desmond Green was so exhausted after the 3 round fight that he was just laying there for so long. They had to put the mask on him to give him oxygen. Very scary moment there, and he has taken a good amount of time off since then, and he is going to make his debut here against Josh Emmett at UFC 210, April 8th. That's a that's a that's a damn close fight on paper to me, man. Desmond Green versus Josh Emmett is a hell of a fight, man, and I guess I would slightly favor Josh Emmett, honestly, but it's a super close fight. Josh Emmett has went out there and proved that he is UFC caliber, picking up 2 straight wins here. Desmond Green, honestly, I do sense a decline. He doesn't look as good as he did maybe a year or two ago, which is unfortunate because he still is a young guy. But I would slightly favor Josh Emmett there, but Desmond Green's debut is definitely something to be excited about. And then lastly, last one I want to talk about is Tai Tuivasa, who is the Australia FC heavyweight champion, 7-0, 7 first-round knockouts, and he's got a win over a former UFC fighter in James McSweeney. So he's not just fighting these Australian cans. Yes, James McSweeney isn't the best fighter in the world, but he has proved himself against the higher name guys. But he does not have a fight scheduled yet. But speaking of fights scheduled, a guy I did talk about in my first episode of the Hardcore's Delay, Tom Duquesnoy. He didn't have a fight scheduled at the time. He does have a fight scheduled now. Tom Duquesnoy is going to be fighting Patrick Williams April 14th on the Demetrius Johnson versus Wilson Hayes Fox card. So definitely excited for Tom Duquesnoy's debut there. Patrick Williams, that should be probably an easy win for Tom Duquesnoy there, but we'll see, man. We'll see. Some of these fighters, when they make their debut, they just do not look the same. So definitely one to look out for there. But that is going to do it for me, guys. That is going to be the Hardcore's Delight episode 3 for the month of March. Thank you all so much for watching. Definitely look out tomorrow. My UFC Fortaleza breakdown will be up, and I do have 6 bets as of right now. So definitely look out for that, guys. And once again, this episode of the Hardcore Delay is brought to you by the MMATakeover.com. Definitely go check them out. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and enjoy the fights.